And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put On Waivers podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, and along with Ryan Holmes. We are both podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. A lot going on. I live in Southern California, in the San Diego area, and everybody and their mama is at the Dodgers-Padres game tonight. So actually, even my family is out there too. So, at least for tonight, because I'm a Giant fan, go Padres. As far as that goes. RTPOW podcast is my Twitter handle, and R Home HOLM 22 is Ryan's. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Good weather still out here. It's not hot yet. So.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Oh, I love it. I got my Jamaican bones. Love that. Love that heat. Thank you for listening to the Put On Waivers podcast in New York, Cincinnati, Ohio, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I guess Slam Diego, California. Here with the Padres. A lot to talk about on and off the field. I mean, it's funny. A friend of mine texted me. He's like, "You really could talk about our show is an NFL show, and then we talk a little bit Raiders after. But on my Raiders show, he's like, you can talk to the Raiders for the whole year, every week." And I'm like, actually, yeah. It's pretty easy, actually. You can think about it, good or bad or indifferent. It's kind of crazy. But we'll start off with some NFL topics that we kind of caught my eye this week that, listen, I'm going to start off by saying I do not hate Kyle Shanahan. I get a lot of DMs and text messages. People say on the text line. Our text line is I gotta find the number. But that's a situation where people think I really hate him. I don't hate him. I don't know. I'm just not as enthralled with him as everybody else is. And everybody is putting out these stories, and at least I saw like 4 or 5 different popular podcasts, and also I think NFL.com also put out a thing that said the 49ers, it is their Super Bowl or bust. I had to laugh a little bit because, okay, I can make an argument that they have the worst starting quarterback in the division. I can make an argument. For that. If he ever goes, he's the 4th best quarterback in the division, possibly. And then they're just waiting for a situation here, Ryan, in week 4 or week 6 where, hey, if he's not doing the job, they're gonna bring in Trey Lance. So if you bring in a rookie quarterback, no matter how ready made your team is, you have to feel like there's some growing pains going into that. They've been hit with the injury bug so much so that Shanahan just cut out OTAs. He's like, we're not doing anything OTAs, we're not doing nothing. He said, no, we're not doing anything. What are your thoughts about the Super Bowl or bust tag? I mean, they have a chance to be good, no question about it. There's talent there. I'm not gonna say they're not like a scrub team by interest imagination. But what are your thoughts about the whole maybe playoff or bust, but like Super Bowl or bust is a little much, right? And just in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not buying the Super Bowl or bust. They kept their window open by going with Trey Lance and trading up to get the rookie quarterback to try to extend the window.
Yeah,
another 4 or 5 years so they can re-sign some of that young defensive talent while they still have a quarterback on a rookie deal, as well as Samuel and Ayuk on the offensive side. So Super Bowl or bust, they're not a veteran enough team, and they didn't go acquire the veteran type of players that those teams typically would. So I think that's outlandish, to be honest with you. I wouldn't even say playoffs or bust. This year should be about making sure that everything around Trey Lance is good and that he's going to be your guy moving forward, whether that's week 4, week 6, or next year. They need to make sure they hit on that pick, because if Trey Lance isn't the guy, they're not going to a Super Bowl anytime soon. And the last team to go to the Super Bowl with a rookie, I have to go all the way back to Ben Roethlisberger real quick off the top of my head. The last time a rookie played in the Super Bowl, and all he did was turn around and hand the ball off. That year. He threw the ball like 20 times a game. So Super Bowl or bust in that division with, like you said, whether it's Garoppolo or Lance, it's the 4th best quarterback.
Kyler Murray. I think Stafford. The people I know who cover the Rams, when I tell you that a certain wide receiver core is really excited about what they have at quarterback right now. I mean, they have no depth in Los Angeles, no question about it. The Rams are not deep, but if they stay healthy, they're going to be a problem. And then there is a number 3 in Seattle, who last time I checked has a pretty good receiving core too. So I mean, they beat the Rams. The Niners have had really good success with the Rams recently, but that's because Jared Goff was the quarterback. And now it's Stafford, and I think Stafford is going to be. I mean, you're going to see the best of Matthew Stafford, and then this wide receiving core is just a really, it's a talented one. That NFC West is no joke. And so I mean, it's going to be tough to win it. It's probably the most enjoyable football you're going to see all year is in that division. But I don't know how they could be I don't know how they could be. They could end up being a good team. Garoppolo usually wins his starts, but you can't sit there and tell me that they are the team to beat. Like I mean, but I get it that they are the most popular team nationwide in that division. I get it, but like they still can't be like the number one choice to win the division.
If they finish third, it wouldn't surprise me in the division. And I don't think the defensive backfield. I don't see enough talent back there that defense a couple of years ago into the Super Bowl was a little bit better than the defense they have now. And it's a different division. There's different quarterbacks, different teams. You could argue, if the wide receiver group in the NFC West, they might be fourth. The Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Rams might have a better group top to bottom than they do. So not only do they have the fourth best quarterback, they might have the fourth best skill position players. If you want their running backs in that group too. Kittle kind of saves them at the tight end, but that defense is going to have to carry them regardless of who the quarterback is. But at some point, they're going to have to put up, 24, 28 points a game to win enough games to get home field, to win the division, and then have a chance to go to the Super Bowl. I just don't see it happening.
Also, I love Trent Williams. I mean, he is just an absolute beast. You look at the other side with McGlinchey can be had. And if especially if Garoppolo is the quarterback, you can't sit there and say he's going to be able to get away from that pressure. Kittle, I mean, listen, I've crossed my fingers on Darren Waller being that guy who never gets hurt. But Kittle has been a guy who gets hurt. Is he high production? Almost like a WWE wrestler when he catches the football. I mean, he's fantastic after the catch. But I mean, at the end of the day, you have to understand that he is a guy who might not finish seasons. And who is the backup tight end? I mean, I thought that might be something that they could think about as well, because to just go into the season saying, oh, boom, he's going to play a bunch of games. That's something that you got to think about as well. They got Banks. Banks is the kid from Notre Dame playing guard as well. I would get Alice Mack, middle of the pack as far as his production last year, but we'll see what he does with the Niners. Listen, good team. I think, a couple guys, I mean, obviously we love Fred Warner, but I think Kinlaw is going to be huge. Like the Niners are a team that loves to draft defensive linemen. They've done a good job with that for the most part, but I mean, they really do need Kinlaw to come through and be a special guy for them to make this defense the next level.
Oh, definitely. His knee's going to have to hold up. That was an issue at the combine. He had some injuries in college. So we'll see. Can he hold up for 17 games and be the focal point on the interior of that offensive line? We don't know, or defensive line, because he didn't start a ton of games last year.
Is there an injury? You mentioned Kinlaw's knee. Is there an injury that you would say if you were like running a team, like, okay, I love the player, but I just can't with that with the problems in that area? Would it be knees? Would it be back?
It would depend on the position.
We'll go with D-line. We'll go D-line.
D-line, I'd probably lean back if there's a major back issue because of the bending and just the physical toll they're going to have to take in the trenches. A knee, like an ACL injury nowadays, I'm not too worried about those. Guys bounce back pretty quickly. Now we're looking at 8 months. It used to be almost 2 years and a year and a half. Now it's 8 months, and guys are back running just as good as they were before. So I'd say back injury. If you have a defensive lineman that has some sort of back injury, that's a scary thing.
That's definitely, no question about it. We both like Justin Fields. We thought that Justin Fields
stated on this podcast numerous times.
Yeah, numerous times. We like Justin. I get Justin on one day. Like him a lot. My thing about the whole situation with Nagy is like he's trying to, as a head coach, you come in and you say to yourself, "Hey, I want competition at every position." And then you're gonna not have it at quarterback. And then I think he's trying to hedge his bet here. He's trying to win games and then say, "Oh, look, I'm going to win 10 games this year, and then I'm going to throw this guy to his side, and now we can bring in the rookie quarterback. Like I just don't think that's. I think if he I mean, you remember I think Derek Carr first year, and it was pretty evident that Matt Schaub, the plan was probably to sit Carr, but then Matt Schaub was just so horrible compared to what Carr was doing in the preseason and everything like that. They were like, we just might just start him. I think this could be kind of the same situation. Like Andy Dalton is if you know you look at what he had last year. That was like a tailor-made position to make the playoffs at what, and all he had to do is win 7 games. I don't see how the Fields doesn't start early in his tenure there. I mean, he might start before the Raiders and Bears play.
Let's hope not. But yeah, this to me it screams like Matt Nagy's gonna make the playoffs or get fired year, and he wants to go with the veteran, and he's digging his heels in. Andy Dalton has no ties to Chicago. He doesn't know the offense. He wasn't there last year.
Yeah.
He hasn't played for this coaching staff. But also, to me, when I'm reading the tea leaves, it says that he has an ultimatum, basically make the playoffs or you're getting fired, and he does not want to go with a rookie. It's weird that they traded up and made that pick. So it seems like the front office, either Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy, are not on the same page, even though they both came back. They both probably should have been fired last year. But now they're in a weird situation. So if they don't make the playoffs and Matt Nagy gets let go, now you have a new coaching staff coming in who didn't draft Justin Fields.
Does Nagy get okay? You mentioned Ryan Pace is the GM, correct? Does he get an opportunity to hire another coach, or you just start fresh, right?
Start fresh.
You gotta start fresh.
He's been there long enough, and he's made enough bad decisions with draft picks and draft capital and selecting quarterbacks.
MVP Mitch.
Nick Foles, to me, has got to be on his way out for like a 5th or 6th round pick if they can have anyone that wants to take him, because they came out and said Justin Fields is the number 2. So to me, when I'm thinking about that, what if Andy Dalton gets hurt in the first quarter of the first game? Yeah, and you're not dressing Foles. So if you're good enough at that point to hand the reins over to Justin Fields, why don't you just do it to start the season? Yeah, if he's the number 3, I understand. But to just come out and say that he's going to be the number 2 over a guy who's played in the Super Bowl and played in this league, that raises a lot of questions.
And like that, like I said, like I just don't. I feel like if I mean, I feel like I don't care who the established player is. If somebody's if people, you can't fool the team, you can't fool the players. So Andy Dalton better come into camp and just kill it, because if this kid is like, if Khalil sees that he's killing it, if all these guys see that he's playing well, a guy like Allen Robinson, who was a really great receiver, who's dying to play with a good quarterback, if he sees that he's killing it, it's going to be hard for Andy Dalton to kind of win over that locker room. Quarterback is not just a position where you just play, the call comes in and you execute it. It's leadership. And it's hard to lead when you're not, when everybody in the huddle thinks the guy behind you is better.
Yeah, and you brought up the Derek Carr in the preseason game against Seattle, basically took that job away. I don't remember if it was Matt Flynn or Matt Schaub. I'm trying to remember which one of those two.
I thought it was
Might
Schaub.
have been Flynn.
Might have been Flynn.
It could be Schaub.
No, you're right.
But I just remember James Jones doing interviews saying they're standing on the sidelines. They knew. He said they knew in training.
They knew in training camp.
The players knew. It took Dennis Allen till week 4 of the preseason to figure that out. But yeah, the players know. They're going to know in training camp if the Bears get off to a slow start, they're going to have to make the move. They can't stick with Andy Dalton if they're 1-3 or 1-4.
Yeah, no question about it. They can't do it.
That would have been 2014.
2014, right? I just want to be because let's see what's going on here. I just want to just double check that for you real quick.
Because I want to say Reggie McKenzie signed Matt Flynn.
He was a Raider. He definitely was a Raider. No question about it. 2014?
Yeah.
14. Raiders. Don't do that to me now. We'll look it up here. 2003 Raiders. Man, I tell you, Pro Football Focus. Baseball Reference. So this stuff is just incredible. How you can look things up real quick. You got right here. Who was the quarterback? The backup quarterback. The starting was it Matt Flynn?
I got the roster up right here. Starting quarterback Derek Carr. Backup quarterback was. Why is it not listed here? Matt Schaub was on the roster, so you're right. It was Schaub.
It was Schaub. I thought it was Schaub, but I do remember. I thought it was Schaub. But yeah, so Schaub was shot. He was shot.
I can't believe he was still in the league last year. Yeah, and then Matt McGloin was the third string quarterback that year.
You ever see anybody more confident than Matt McGloin?
No, but he's made a meme out of that touchdown in the fourth quarter when he goes like this.
Yeah, seriously. Did you see? You obviously remember when the as I know this is the NFL part of the show, but we all remember this about bad Raider football. But you remember when Carr got hurt? Was the last game of the year was at Denver, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm sitting there, and I think they did. I think Cooper did a double move, like an out and up, on Aqib Talib, and he's so wide open, it's disgusting. I mean, no pressure whatsoever. It's a layup touchdown, and he must have overthrew him like by McGloin was overthrew him like 15, 20 yards. I'll never forget that. I'm like, dude, you could have lollipopped it straight up in the air, and it would have been a touchdown. I'll never forget that.
I think didn't he get benched in the second half, and then Cook came in?
Yeah, Cook
started the playoff game at Houston.
And do you know who the Raiders could have had instead of Cook in that draft?
Prescott.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's pretty good.
Should have let Jerry Jones select that one.
Yeah, seriously. The Chargers in the same division as the Raiders, but people love this Brandon Staley. They love him as a coach. My thing is I never really go too much into that stuff because I feel like everybody loves the new coach in year one. It's just new blood, young guy. Oh, and you hear the stories. Oh, we can relate to him. Like he's young like everybody else here. And, that's great, but his defense isn't going to have Aaron Donald. His defense isn't going to have Michael Brockers.
Jalen Ramsey.
It's not going to have Jalen Ramsey. They're not the most horrible defense in the world. But like let's just be real. What do you look for as far as like, hey, like you sit there, you're saying to yourself, okay, this is a first year head coach. You think he's going to do really well, or you think he's going to be just middle of the pack, or he's just going to be horrible? Like what kind of things are you like in your head? Like the years of watching football, we've seen so many first year coaches just go by the wayside, and we see some become really good. Obviously, leadership, owning everything, all that stuff like that. But I just feel like it's just such a unknown. Like I like Robert Saleh, but like, do we know what he's going to be as a head coach? Like you just don't know. So I would just say bring it back and relax, and let's just see what happens out there in nobody cares Los Angeles Charger land, because nobody cares.
Yeah, you hear a lot of the stuff coming out of mini camp was, hey, the defense is going to be multiple. We're going to have different groupings. We can match up with different offenses. Well, every team is saying that right now, whether they a veteran coach or a new coach.
You know who I remember saying our defense is going to be multiple.
Paul Gunther.
One.
Dennis Allen.
I never forget that. We're going to be like, people ask him. I remember reporters asking about his defense. We're going to be multiple. And he's turned out to be a decent defensive coordinator out there in New Orleans, but it's just funny when he said, I remember he said, we're going to be multiple. Whatever. But yeah, I would just caution, like, listen, they've, if you're going to make a big impact, usually it's in the first year for a head coach. But I would say I'm interested to see with his youth as a head coach, another offensive coordinator for Herbert. It's the year 2. He's had a bunch of different offensive coordinators his whole life. He's still been pretty good, but here's another one. And they're also going to be doing the passing game, running game thing. They don't have just a one side coordinator. They have like that whole. I don't know how that actually works. So I'm not sure. You think it's going to be a run. You call. I don't know. I think they said maybe they send 2 plays in, and then just run it like that. I'm not sure how they do that, but I know they do that in college a lot. But we'll see how that works out for them as well.
I think the biggest thing for Staley, he had the number one defense, obviously, with the Rams. He had Aaron Donald. He had Jalen Ramsey. But it was a new style of defense the NFL hadn't really seen before, where he had basically ran 2 high safety out of everything. And he played the numbers in the box. Like, he was a man down in the box, but he had the guys in the right scheme to do enough to stop the run. They were really good in coverage, but he had really good coverage players too.
He did.
The NFL's had a year to study what he did on defense, and we'll see if he can replicate it without Aaron Donald. Now, obviously, he has Joey Bosa, but Joey Bosa is playing a new position. He's going to be playing an outside linebacker position. He's not going to be playing. They're in a 3-4. He's not a 4-3 base end anymore. So he's going to have some coverage responsibilities where he's not always going to be going forward and attacking the ball. And it's going to be interesting to see if he can replicate that. Obviously, if he has the number one defense, this team's going to win a lot of games and probably finish. I don't know if they'll beat the Chiefs, but they'll probably win 12 or 13 games if they have the number one defense. But if he could get them in the top 10, because he has some personnel to work with, they're going to win 9 or 10 games if Justin Herbert stays on kind of where he's at with the same progression and doesn't take a step backwards.
I definitely see that. I just don't. I mean, with him, you gotta just see what happens as far as that goes. Because I don't know what he is. I'm not sure. They right off the bat they had to play a bunch of top quarterbacks right off the rip. So where his defensive philosophy is going to get tested. And also, I think when you're playing defense, as we can talk about scheme, talk about all these different things, when you can get the pressure up the middle, like you do with Aaron Donald, like that's just unprecedented. Like he
doesn't have that with the Chargers.
He doesn't have that with it. There's nothing you can do with the Chargers as far as that goes. A little silver lining here now, real quick. Before we go, a couple of things. Melvin Ingram still not signed. Justin Houston still not signed. Are those guys who you would fit with the Raiders, or do you feel like also do you think they have anything left for another team to kind of be that rotational pass rusher? Because nobody's counting on them to play the majority of snaps, but just give you some rush in the pinch.
I would say Ingram would still be a fit. Obviously, there were a lot of reports that he was out of shape in March when when free agency opened. He had visited Miami. They chose not to sign him as well. So it might be just a getting in shape thing. He's going to want to play in a system he's comfortable with. I'm a big proponent of bringing him in because the Raiders aren't going to ask him to line up on the outside. You have Ngakoue and Crosby to do that, but he can rush on the inside against guards and win with some spin moves and some quickness. If the Raiders brought him in as just a situational guy, 20 snaps a game and third downs and passing situations, he can still help them out. Does he need to be an every down guy? No, they have enough rotational pieces. I think he could fit still there. Justin Houston probably doesn't fit at this point because he's not going to play the base end in this Gus Bradley defense. He's not going to play the Leo. He doesn't fit that either. So I don't see him. I think they'd rather give those snaps to Malcolm Kuntz or Crosby and Ngakoue and even keep Farrell outside at times. And even Carl Nass, it was kind of not been talked about. He's kind of disappeared in the offseason from mini camps. You haven't heard his name at all other than the big announcement yesterday. But as a player, we haven't heard anything about him. So they still have him in the fold. He still can be an okay situational edge rusher as well.
So he's on the list. So let's just get Naismith out the way. On the Cover 3D Raider podcast with Monster Mash Cannon, and Sean Oahu Raider, we had 2 rookie. We had a question that I posted to the group was 2 rookies you're excited about and 2 veterans you want to see go. And he was on my list to go before that announcement. This is going to be just, as far as the announcement goes, that's the announcement, and that is what it is. but the Raiders have to make a football decision as far as that goes. Can he, with a more athletic offense, I mean, like defensive line, can he make plays in this Gus Bradley defense on that defensive line? Does he fit that? I mean, because he's really, they did a breakdown of the amount of snaps he had and amount of pressures, amount of sacks, amount of hurries, and he's just been one of the worst defensive linemen as far as that goes, and he's way overpaid. What are your thoughts about Carl Nassib as far as his future with the Raiders? Because I just don't. I mean, we haven't heard his name, but I don't feel like we should kind of because he was a healthy scratch last year. He was a healthy scratch on a team with no pass rush last year.
Yeah, to me, in his announcement, good for him. No issues with it. As far as being a player, there's clearly 4 guys ahead of him as defensive ends on this depth chart. So he's fighting for that 5th end, that extra guy on the roster. He's a veteran. He could probably come in and be the backup at the 5 technique just based on hustle and his ability and motor. As far as pass rush moves and all that, is he going to give them a presence off the edge? Probably not.
No.
So if they did go out and they brought in a veteran, whether that's Melvin Ingram or someone else, then he's taking Nassib's spot on this roster. I still think it's 70-30. He's going to be released and not make this team. Based on he doesn't really do much on special teams either. And you're talking about a 5th defensive end. And they have Solomon Thomas, who, if they really wanted to, they can slide him out and he can be the backup at defensive end behind Farrell. Them extra snaps. They have plenty of depth. Especially you're hearing a lot about Quentin Jefferson and also a lot about I can't think of the guys. Philbin, the guy they got from the Chargers. You're hearing a lot about those 2 guys on the interior. So if they're going to want to get Solomon Thomas some snaps, he can get some snaps at the 5 technique as well, which basically takes away what Nassib's going to bring because he's not going to play the Leo. So his only spot to get on the field is to back up at the 5 technique.
Yeah, I just feel like I'm not sure what. I mean, listen, I had no issue with it. Be happy. But part of equality and and fighting for equality is one thing because you're trying to be judged on not better or worse than everybody else. And when you judge him against his peers, he's just not very good.
He took a pay cut just to stay on the roster.
Yeah.
I want to see post June 1 cut what it would cost. His base salary this year's 3.5. His cut number is 4.9. So I mean, if they walked away from him, it would be the end of the world this year because they've already fit him under the cap. It would free up money for next year.
Yeah, true. And then would this be a situation where would you hang on to him just a little bit in camp because in case of injury, or would that it would probably depend on who would get cut, who would get hurt. But I mean, he's just not. He's not it. I mean, I'm not sure what Gunther saw in him. I'm not sure what Gruden saw in him or Mayock, but he's just not it. And then when you sign a player like that, and immediately your eyes light up and you say why as a fan, that's not it. And I'm not here to try to make him good. He's just okay. He belongs in the league. He's not like a player doesn't belong in the NFL. He's just not what he was brought here to be.
He doesn't really fit this scheme either. So he's going to have to provide value at that backup 5 technique, and he's going to have to do enough where Bradley's going to keep him around. But if Bradley wants to bring in Melvin Ingram or another guy that he's coached in Jacksonville, Seattle, or even with the Chargers, he's going to take Nassib's spot because the other 4 guys are clearly going to play over him.
The KJ Wright gets
unless they feel Kuntz isn't ready.
Yeah.
To play, 10, 15 snaps a game, which he should be, like where they took him.
That'd be kind of ridiculous.
And he's going to be playing on the other side at the Leo. He's going to be backing up Ngakoue, which Nassib won't. So,
I mean, if he can't play 15 snaps on 3rd and long, that'd be that would be nuts. That would be really bad if you couldn't do that.
I think you hold on to him until you need to let him go, though, because if Crosby goes down, Farrell goes down, if you do have an injury, at least you
Yeah.
have him on the roster because they don't really have anyone else
Mm-hmm.
behind those 4 guys.
And then you also take that revenue from those jerseys. Sorry,
Yeah, well, that's split amongst the league. So.
Oh yeah. I'm a money guy. Go ahead. I mean, do what you gotta do there as far as that goes. You mentioned one player trending up and one player trending down. Was that for the Raiders or just for the AFC West as a whole?
I got a guy on all 4 teams.
Okay, good. Okay, good.
Just a guy, just reading the tea leaves coming in and out of mini camp or mandatory camp. Kind of one guy trending up, one guy kind of trending down for each team. We can start with the Raiders. I think, and you haven't heard a lot. If you read between the lines, you've heard a little bit. You haven't heard, but I think Bryan Edwards is poised for a big year. Everyone wants to talk about Ruggs.
Yeah.
But I think Bryan Edwards is the guy because he's going to be the big physical X receiver. He's going to run a lot of those shorter routes that Carr's going to want to throw, and he's big enough to win on the outside. And so I think trending up for the Raiders would be Bryan Edwards. Trending down, clearly Damon Arnett. He was, quote, an afterthought that Vic Tafur reported.
So I got a response to that one. So if because for me it was Arnett as well. So, but I did hear that the media never saw. I guess they never saw the 11 on 11. So when they pressed. Yeah, so when the press kind of when the people were pressing him about that, Vic about that, who I think Vic is a good reporter. Vic doesn't have Vic his credentials speak for itself, but I think that was kind of more those. I mean, he's a man corner in a zone scheme. So let's just when they do play, at times they do play man on one side. I mean, that could be. But if the starting guys are going to be Hayward and Mullen. And, after that, it's just like, who's going to be the best in the slot. And for my guy on the rise, I just hear Hobbs' name a lot. And I hear a lot. He's a willing tackler. He's very talented. He's very talented in the slot. As a big the Natural's one of my favorite movies. So if I get a jersey that says Hobbs on it, I'll take that any day of the week. But he's talented. I mean, he can really do. I like his toughness as far as being able to tackle. I think they like him a lot. So we'll see what that goes. Amik Robinson. Hopefully, I have no idea where. I think if it's a slot or it's nowhere, right? As far as that goes, and then we sit there and look at a guy like Isaiah Johnson, who's not really in camp right now. We'll have to see what happens there. Right. Do we know anything about what happened with Diablo? Is that undisclosed? Like nobody knows? Is he in witness protection?
No one said anything. Yeah, it's an injury, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah,
Isaiah Johnson was the next guy on my trending down because I haven't heard his name at all, and they went out and signed Busby. They've added Rasul Douglas. Mm-hmm. At this point, I would say Johnson's not making his team.
Yeah, he's not, and it's weird because I thought he would be a guy who would make the team. To be honest with you, I thought
he should fit this scheme too.
He should. I'm not sure what's going on with Isaiah Johnson at all. He seemed like tailor-made for this squad as far as long arms and everything like that. Who do you have for the Chargers?
So I have trending up Nwosu, the 3-4 outside linebacker from USC. He's in a contract here. He's basically taking Melvin Ingram's spot, but he's going to get plenty of chances opposite Bosa to rush the passer. And I think he's going to make himself a little bit of money. He's a guy that I think if Ngakoue doesn't have a good year, that he might find his way into a Raider uniform next year with the obviously playing for Gus Bradley and having familiarity playing the Leo position. But I think he's poised for a big year. I think you might see 7, 8, 9 sacks out of a Quincy Nwosu. I believe I said that right. Yeah. And then, kind of second tier guy turning out. I think I've heard a lot about Adderley, the safety. Yeah. And then clearly Nasir Adderley with going into that system that it's pretty much driven by the safeties that Staley ran with the Rams. So I think he could have a nice season for them. And then trending down, I think Kenneth Murray. Everything that I saw and I've heard is they don't like him in coverage and they just want him to be a downhill run player, which when you traded up into the first round to take a linebacker last year, and I was never a big Kenneth Murray guy when he came out. Mm-hmm. To basically say, hey, he's not good in coverage, we're just going to use him on rundowns. and have a 2-down linebacker, that's not good in his second year. And you're hearing more about Tranquil and Kaiser White as the 2 coverage guys when they go to the nickel.
Is he? I mean, is he? Because is he playing old school football? He's he's not a guy who can play in this era of football where you're playing 2 linebackers, and those 2 linebackers, or maybe a lot of people are playing 3 safeties now. Yeah, they barely have linebackers on the field, or they're converting safeties from college into linebackers. Hybrids kind of players. Is that where he kind of fits in? Because I didn't feel like he was a great pick for that.
He's not
good
in coverage.
situation.
He can run. He's just not good in coverage. So it's more understanding what his responsibilities are in certain zone schemes, and then just not being able to stay with guys. I don't know if he's a straight line guy. There's not a lot of side to side mobility.
Wiggle.
But